Pitching and negotiation skills for Business Higher National Diploma students. In this second video, we will talk about evaluating the critical steps and information required for negotiating and generating deals. The following 4 steps can be undertaken in the process of negotiating and generating ideas for new deals. This includes 1. Preparation. The first step, which is often overlooked by parties in negotiation, is the preparation for negotiation. It is a vital step which sets base for and steers the direction of negotiations. During preparation, a negotiator decides whether it is in a position to negotiate or not, or it should accept other parties' offer prima facie. Once a decision to negotiate has been made, the negotiator then conducts necessary research to know about stakeholders in negotiation and their motives. The negotiator also collects relevant data and analyzes it to defend his or her point of view. For instance, if an employee is negotiating a pay rise with their employer, he or she may need to collect the past data on their productivity or performance, or their contribution to organisation as a defence for his or her demand. In the preparation stage, the negotiator also tentatively decides the type of relationship he or she wants to build with another party. 2. Sharing information. In this stage, the negotiator shares and exchanges information with other stakeholders or parties. Sharing information helps the negotiator get a clear picture of the other party's interests and his or her relative position in negotiation. For example, an employee might have information about his productivity in hand in order to negotiate, but the employer, besides productivity, might also be interested in his or her relationship with other employees. In this stage, all parties in negotiation also attempt to build trust and rapport in order to resolve the issue amicably. Thus, each party in negotiation conducts its own critical assessment of the other party's trustworthiness, competency, and interest. 3. Bargaining. As stated above, if a negotiator's assessment of the other party turns out positive, he or she goes ahead with the current proposition and enters into a bargain with the other party. The negotiation stage involves making offers and counter-offers or adjustments to current offers. For example, an employee in negotiation with an employer can demand a pay rise of £10,000, which can be unaffordable for his employer. Thus, the employer can make a counter-offer of £5,000, or the employer might be willing to pay a pay rise of £10,000 a year, but might also give an extra task to the employee. Once all parties are willing to accept terms in negotiation, an agreement is reached. The negotiation is concluded by putting in writing and signing an agreement by all the parties. Request for proposal.
Welcome everyone to this overview video on RFPs, requests for proposals. Today we're going to cover off what documentation we need to include within our RFP for suppliers to be able to quote effectively and for us to run an efficient process. So here is our RFP document. This specific example is available from entirebuyer.com, and this is our RFP template, which you can download using the link in the description below. And on the right hand side we've got our content section, which displays all the information that we want to include for our suppliers to review. That's really worthwhile specifying a bit of information around the company and some key facts, just because suppliers often want to know what type of company it is that they're working with. They might not know all the information firsthand, and it's really useful to actually specify what are the values that the company abides by, just because each business has its own sort of moral compass, and it might be that suppliers have their particular clients that they want to work with, so they need to choose which type of projects to work in, and so including any external links and any news stories with regards to your company is very beneficial indeed. Here we want to talk about the problem itself and the team that we're going to be working with, together with the solution. What does the perfect solution look like? For aims and objectives, we want to, for example, specify that we're looking for speed implementation. We want our go live by December, for example. And we want some innovative thinking to the contracts. We want access to best-in-class technology. What is it that we're looking for from our new provider? Here we've got a nice, well-presented table, quickly specifying the timelines that we're working to within the project, together with the right-hand side detail around how we're going to actually assess each of these responses. So, what's particularly important for us. On the left side, we've actually got details around how businesses get in contact with us and when supplier questions are due, which I recommend setting about a week in advance of the deadline. We're talking about the evaluation. There might be a shortlisting process which can help a further round of negotiations if possible. And then also, when are we looking to sign the contract? Here within the specification, we're specifying what type of goods that we want, the services, equipment, any maintenance, access to technology, what are the security requirements within that technology, and any bespoke works outside of the constraints of the contract. If we can specify those here, that's really useful. Here we were mentioning contract length. I normally try and keep this as low as possible, just because it normally gets extended out and it can give you an opportunity to improve the pricing later on, or maybe you offer an extra year based on good performance against the service levels. We're talking about scope in terms of locations, scope in terms of the implementation, what contracts that a supplier might have to manage, assets, or even people. So we've got a template here which is included, as well as for volumes. So we've got a breakdown in terms of monthly volumes. Suppliers love to get access to that information up front. Here in 4.6 we've got a second proposal. I normally recommend the companies that I'm working with to include a second proposal, just because suppliers are often very good at challenging the specification and actually deeming better what it is that we as a business need, and they can challenge some of the status quo if they provide a conformant and a non-conformant specification. Here we're accessing financial information, so we want 3 years of audited financial accounts, and we also want some client references to be able to call and do our due diligence. We're talking about the account management, what type of reporting that we want access to, whether suppliers can actually subcontract, and any other contractual conditions which we can include here. Very beneficial to include that as upfront as early as possible, just because this is a competitive situation within an RFP, and the more we can get agreement to upfront will help speed things along later on in the process. Lastly, we've got some contractual conditions around validity of quotations and liability with regards to costs of proposals. And then again, we've got how do suppliers actually submit their proposals. So we've got a supplier questionnaire, and within this template we've got 180 questions, which I'll show you very shortly. And we're going to dive into some of the other supporting documentation that's attached. So here are some useful documents to include within your RFP itself. And we've got one here, for example, which is volumes. So we've got some dummy data here with invoices and POs and description of the service broken down by month and year and cost. And that's really useful just because it enables suppliers to see how much you're spending, how much you're using on a monthly basis, and allows them to quote effectively. We've also got a document for scoring, which I'd highly recommend using. So we've got a number of tabs here. Here we've got each area. So for example, we've got questions relating to goods. So in the last 6 months, what improvements have you made to your products? And that's really useful to understand which of the providers that are going to continuously improve their product range, for example, and we can look at the questions which are most important to us. We've got a scoring tab, so we can actually insert supplier responses side by side and score effectively. And then we've got a summary of those responses here. So we're broken down by each specific section, and we've got the weighted averages for each supplier. We've also got a pricing template, which is really useful for breaking down and making sure you can easily compare responses from each suppliers. So we've got that for each product or service, for example, and we've got it broken down by cost within each of those areas. So we've got a conformance specification, we've got material costs broken down, and equally the non-conformance specification, and here's your summary. So that's it as far as this RFP template is concerned. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Regarding this template itself, go to entirebuyer.com/templates and you'll be able to download this specific template itself there. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck with your RFP project.